What is up, everybody? My name's Big Cam, and we are back today maybe with a little bit of a theory time, but also a spoiler discussion of Fantastic Four First Steps. And we're going to be talking the post-credit scene and trying to explain those a little bit, talking about the Galactus and the Silver Surfer of it all, and the Doctor Doom and where this could be going with Avengers Doomsday. And I have a theory on what that Doctor Doom and the post-credit scene could mean, but full spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen the film. Get out of here, go see the film, and then come on back and chat with us. But Fantastic Four First Steps is a really, really good movie. I've now seen it twice, and you know, maybe to jump into the first topic at hand, is it better than Superman, right? A lot of people you've been seeing online, Fantastic Four, Superman, and it's funny because every single person I've asked or seen talking about it kind of has a different answer. Some people are liking Fantastic Four more because of the family stuff. Some people are liking Fantastic Four more just because they're more of a Marvel person. Some people are loving what James Gunn did with Superman and they're so excited to see what he's doing going forward. I'm kind of in both camps. And honestly, if I was maybe a little bit further on in my life and I was married and had a kid or something, maybe this Fantastic Four First Steps would have hit so much harder. But I don't know, maybe Superman as like a young man making his way up through the world, maybe I identified with that more. And maybe I just like James Gunn's filmmaking more, and how complete and clear a vision he had, and also like, you know, the edit in that movie is like damn near perfect, you know, and he doesn't waste a single second of screen time, you know, like it's quick and it's tight, but it's not like Fantastic Four is tight and it could be 30 to 40 minutes longer. Like I've said in my other reviews talking about Fantastic Four, and one of my only real complaints is that like I want an extended cut from this movie, and I don't think we've ever gotten an extended cut or a director's cut from like Marvel directly. You know, like the only one I can really think of came from like Sony, you know, so not really something that happens in the Marvel universe. And Matt Shakman said it wouldn't happen because there's VFX that would need to get finished and stuff like that, and it's like, I don't know how much I believe him, you know, like, one, if this movie makes $1 billion, why can't they spend a little bit of money on VFX to put out an extended cut for the people that made that movie $1 billion? You know what I mean? Like look at The Last of Us Part 2. They added chronological mode and the No Return DLC and, you know, like the Left Behind DLC, and they never charged the audience, the people that are playing the game, more money to play that DLC. They just gave it to us because they're thankful for how much we played the game, how much copies have been sold. Now granted, gaming is a crazy industry and they make tons of money in the gaming industry, so maybe they just have more money to be able to do something like that, and Marvel's really focusing all of their efforts on Avengers Doomsday at the current moment and trying to stuff that out with also trying to stuff out Spider-Man Brand New Day, Spider-Man 4, but also that's probably kind of a Sony production, so we don't know how much Marvel's, you know, integral in that, even though it's like Marvel and Dustin Daniel Cretton and Tom Holland, but at the end of the day it's still like Sony, so it's like I don't know how this works. All I know is Sony sucks. I hope Sony has to give back Spider-Man someday, really do. But, you know, Fox eventually had lost the Fantastic Four, so now Marvel has gotten their chance to make their Fantastic Four movie. I think they did a tremendous job. You know, they even tease in there at some moment like the first ever Fantastic Four suits that are almost kind of like the Incredibles, but they're blue with like a black collar and, you know, more of like a blue and black type theme. And then this is like the Fantastic Four that is now 4 years into being the Fantastic Four, and they have these blue and like almost like a baby blue with white, you know, and the white logo on the chest and the white trim. We never really talked about, you know, and they never really talked about it in the movie, why Pedro's character of Mr. Reed Richards has a blue turtleneck and everybody else has white. I'm assuming that the white on everybody else's suit is like some type of padding or armor type of thing, and Reed Richards doesn't need that because he's essentially made out of rubber, you know what I mean? Like, we've seen him fall from great heights and just kind of slap on the ground and then kind of just stand back up, you know? Like, when you're stretchy and you can stretch over everything, you're essentially made out of rubber, you know? I also loved Herbie to pieces, you know, like that little robot, you know, like his little R2-D2 type vibes, but like this, it had these old 60s vibe, but also retro futuristic like art and futuristic vibes. I really dug the universe of 828, and I'm posing the question to you guys, the audience, should we continue, right? Because Kevin Feige has said recently, if the Marvel Universe in Secret Wars, you know, is 2 universes or 3 universes colliding, after Secret Wars, it's not necessarily going to be a reboot, but it's going to be a reset back to a single timeline. And then he said after that, we'll probably get, you know, a new Tony Stark and a new Cap and stuff like that. And they'll start doing the recastings and stuff. But it won't be a completely new start from the beginning universe, kind of like James Gunn's doing. Even though James Gunn is kind of making it work with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker Season 1 and kind of taking the things he wants and then making this new universe from there. But if you've seen Superman, it feels very different than the Snyderverse. In a very good way, and you know, much more clear and much more interesting, and there's so many characters already, like Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, Metamorpho. You know, that's 4 members of this Justice Gang already that I'm dying to see more of, and then that's not even to, you know, mention the Daily Planet gang. And it's funny because, like, as I talk about Fantastic Four, because Fantastic Four and Superman came out so close together, I can't help but compare them and think about what I loved from that and what I loved from this and what I didn't like from that and what I didn't love from this, you know, and like, it's very, very hard comparison in my mind, honestly. I wish that, like, Superman came out, you know, or even vice versa. I wish, like, the Fantastic Four came out not in July, you know, like, if one came out in July, there's not really either studio putting out a big movie for the rest of the year, you know, like Fantastic Four First Steps couldn't have waited till December, and then it would have had to compete against Avatar. But Avatar and Fantastic Four, would it really compete? Is there a crossover of audiences? Maybe, but I don't think as much so as DC and Marvel. I'm still waiting to see what, like, the final box office push for either of these movies will be, you know, and if they're hurting each other now that they're both out competing together. I know in my own personal theater, you know, I wasn't able to go see it for a while. Like, my roommate and my mother weren't able to see Fantastic Four First Steps until the 2nd week, and Superman until the 3rd week, you know? So, not a lot of people were able to get to the theater opening weekend, especially because seats were in theaters were sold out. But, like, you know, if people are going to see it and they're sold out and there's not that many show times because there's 2 movies that are huge playing at the same time instead of 1, right? Like, imagine if one of those movies had every theater, then people probably would have been able to find seats, you know what I mean? But because they were only playing on half of the theaters and half of the theaters had Fantastic Four, you know, they were sold out much quicker and people weren't able to go immediately, you know? So hopefully these movies continue to make a whole lot of money, and, you know, going forward we can get dope movies like this, because the last 3 movies they put out, whether it's DC or Marvel, with Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four First Steps, and Superman, I have absolutely loved the last 3 projects put out. Although the post-credit scene in Thunderbolts I liked a lot more than the post-credit scene in Fantastic Four First Steps, and I wish they connected a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, in Thunderbolts, if you guys haven't seen Thunderbolts, there's a Fantastic Four jet, or, you know, spacecraft, and it has 4 little spires at the end, when the one in the Fantastic Four only has 3, and we never see a spaceship at the end of this post-credit scene, although the building has been repaired because Galactus stuck his hand through the living room and, like, grabbed Baby Franklin. Baby Franklin's now 4 years older. The room is now got orange carpet, whatever reason, instead of blue, and it's much bigger now. So it's now got, like, room for the entire Avengers, and apparently there's going to be a lot of people more than just the Fantastic Four in this room in Avengers Doomsday. So I'm assuming maybe Sam Wilson's Captain America, the Wakandans, maybe Doctor Doom, you know, like, what if Doctor Doom's 828, you know, like, because this is 828 Doctor Doom. This isn't like a multiverse Doctor Doom, at least we don't think. You know, from what they confirmed, this is Robert Downey Jr. in that cloak with Baby Franklin touching his face, and Baby Franklin doesn't seem, you know, like, too scared, although he doesn't seem too happy either. He's not like smiling like, ah, little friendly guy, you know? So maybe he's healing Doom's scarred face at this moment, so RDJ cannot have to wear prosthetic makeup the whole time and he can just look like himself. That would probably be something I could see. But, you know, if you're gonna have RDJ in this cloak holding that Doom mask, why not show his face? Why not have him turn around and say something? Why not have him be like, Susan, you know, or something, you know? Unless it's not RDJ and they're throwing us off the scent and this is 828's Doctor Doom and RDJ's Doctor Doom is from, you know, our universe, 19999 or whatever it is. 616 or whatever we're calling it. I did appreciate that the Thunderbolts post-credit scene gave us like, it was like a 5-minute post-credit scene and it gave us, you know, a little bit of information on the Fantastic Four, information on what Sam Wilson and Bucky's relationship is. It showed a time change. I think it was like 14 months or something. So, you know, it took a year and 2 months since the end of Thunderbolts, and they're not doing so great as the new Avengers, you know. Bob is still Bob, he hasn't turned back into the Sentry, you know. Red Guardian's the only one that seems to be loving it, but the rest of them, all their hair's growing out and shit. Yelena's got longer hair, Ghost had longer hair, Bucky had longer hair. They all had kind of updated suits that have the Avengers logo on it now, you know, so I wish we got something a little bit more like that. Instead, the post-credit scene we got was just brief and quick and didn't tease too much, you know, like it was good, but it could have been dope, you know, and my audience and most people that I've heard from that saw the Doom mask and the Doom thing, you know, when they saw it and it cut away, they were like, oh, you know, like, instead of like, ooh, you know, like when we initially saw the Doom mask, people were like, ooh, and then it cut and people went, oh. And then they waited till the second post-credit scene, and it was just the stupid cartoon. And then Herbie turns it off, and that's it. So, like, if anything, I think they should have put the funny one first, and then, you know, the Doctor Doom one last. So people are walking out like, oh, Doctor Doom. Instead, they went, oh, man, that's the post-credit scenes they made us wait for. Like, a couple of decisions in this. Most of them, for Fantastic Four, were great. You know, the movie really was satisfying and great. But just a couple of decisions are confusing and, you know, and or bad. And, you know, but what's not a bad decision is to make Shia LaBeouf's Silver Surfer have Julia Gardner's blue eyes, and then she's like a mirror and you can see Joseph Quinn's face in it, Johnny Storm's face in her face, like reflecting. I really dug that whole story, and I really hope that Johnny and Silver Surfer here have some type of romance in the future, you know, whenever they come back, because, you know, a little bit of spoilers, but we are talking spoilers here. The Galactus fight scene in New York, I really need to see it in IMAX, but I can't believe there's already like images that are floating around Twitter and shit, and like Galactus on fire, right? Like Galactus himself looked great, and then they set him on fire at one point, and it looks crazy. And Ben throws the oil truck at him that Johnny lights on fire, so to make him on fire, and then he goes to hit him with a crane, and he grabs the crane and just yeets Ben Grimm into space, literally, and Ben starts to like freeze, and then Johnny has to grab him and starts bringing him back into planet, and then that's when we get the, what time is it, Ben? Not now, Johnny. What time is it, Ben? It's clobbering time! And then he pretty much cannonballs through friggin' Galactus's face. Like, yeah, I love that scene. But this is what I was talking about. All of a sudden, he's just walking through the city, and it's like you're seeing a walking skyscraper, like a moving skyscraper on fire, and he's just walking down the street. You know, like, I was like, holy shit, Galactus is terrifying. And then Sue Storm single-handedly pushing him back in the first watch around. I was crying tears because I was thinking about my own mother and how just like this big giant space god, if he was trying to attack me as a baby, she would have, you know, do not mess with a mother's wrath. You know, like, do not mess with my baby. Ah! You know, and she's like pushing her force field, pushing Galactus's big ass into this portal, and then Ben's like, we did it, we're good, and then his hand reaches out of it. I was like, oh fuck, you know, like, oh man, the first time around, I mean, even when they get onto Galactus' ship for the first time, and like, she goes, you are before Galactus, and they're kind of like, huh, what do you mean? And we just see the shadow, and we're like, huh, what's that big shadow? And then the eyes light up, and you're like, oh, that big shadow's Galactus. Great, wonderful. And I was just sitting there, and like, he leans forward, and I go, I'm scared. You know, like, this big fuck is terrifying. And then, you know, I've been seeing more and more people, oh, Galactus was just stretching friggin' Reed Richards. I thought his superpower was stretchiness. People are not comprehending how far he is stretching right here. Galactus is fucking ginormous. He is stretching him, you know, quadruple the amount of length that he normally does. You know, like, I get it. He's Reed Richards, and everyone's like acting like he ripped him in half and killed him here. He's still fine, you know, like he was just getting stretched a little bit, you know, he's just like, you know, at the chiropractor, and he goes, we're just gonna pop that lower back, and Reed Richards was like, ah, oh, haha, I feel great, you know, like, that's all that happened there. You guys are confused. But I think we can all agree that this is by far and away the best Fantastic Four movie of all time, considering it's only the fourth and technically fifth, but the one of them never got released and is on YouTube now, like the 1994 version. But the 2005 and the 2007, I'm still fond of, and I've watched recently over the weekend after Fantastic Four First Steps, and I still enjoy them quite a bit. And, you know, Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis are so funny, and, you know, I mean, even Young Griffin and Jessica Alba, I enjoy them, but I like Pedro and Vanessa Kirby's Reed and Sue so much better. Ebon is great, but I think I do like Michael Chiklis in the practical suit a lot. I do wish that they did a little bit more of a practical suit in, you know, I think they would just be able to do a really good job today. But the way that CGI Ben looked so good, you know, it really did. And, you know, the way that they just kind of kept Ebon Moss-Bachrach's blue eyes, and he has a beard. Like, I can't wait to get the Hot Toys of the Fantastic Four and see the thing, and you can take off his shirt and have him full rock Ben, or you could have him put the shirt on with the beard and have him full, like, look, you look prestigious. You know, like, I really was digging the Rock look. But a lot of people seem to be digging this film. A 92% Rotten Tomatoes score from audiences and 88% certified fresh from critics. You know, so not a bad little score for these people. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, they also teased earlier in the movie, you know, when Sue's giving like a little speech, all participating countries agree to dismantle their armed forces, and the only one not present was Latveria. So, are they not there because Latveria refused to dismantle their armed forces? If they have armed forces, are they Doom bots, or, you know, are they all under Victor Von Doom? And my next question, is this Victor Von Doom actually RDJ? Because if you watch like the interview that I think Brandon Davis did for Phase Hero with Matt Shakman, he kind of like gets the scoop, and he's like, so the Russo brothers filmed that post-credit scene? And he's like, yeah, I know they filmed the Thunderbolts one. Did they film this one as well? And he goes, yeah, they filmed it. And he goes, oh, well, was it RDJ in the suit? Were you even on set? And he goes, yeah, it was RDJ. But the way he answered it was kind of like, yeah, it was RDJ. You know, like, that's how I heard it. And I was like, are they just saying that because RDJ has been confirmed as Doom? Or is there another high-level actor under this Dr. Doom cloak that is being saved for Avengers Doomsday. And maybe instead of getting like a council of reeds, we get a council of dooms. And we see, you know, it would have been great to have Julian McMahon from the original Fantastic Four movies, although he just passed recently, unfortunately. You know, and I did predict that he was going to show up. You know, I was like, oh, I wonder if like the Council of Reeds, and we'll get, you know, John Krasinski, Ewan Griffin, you know, and we'll get Miles Teller, we'll get them all back and have, you know, Pedro Pascal talking to all these different Reed Richards from the multiverses. Will that happen for Doom? I don't know. And if there is a second Doom, who would it be? My only thought and guess in my mind is Robert Downey Jr.'s last Oscar-winning scene partner, and that is Cillian Murphy. You know, so maybe Cillian Murphy is the Doctor Doom of 828, and then the Doctor Doom of Avengers Doomsday is RDJ type thing. I don't know. I don't know, but we see just a slightly, it's like a black hooded cloak figure, but he's just got slightly green in that cloak, and he's holding the mask, and Franklin's touching his face. So what is Franklin Richards up to here? He is 4 years old, or however, maybe 5, but probably 4-ish years old, and how much of his powers has he learned to use in those 4 years? We know the kid is very smart because, you know, Vanessa's like, what book do you want to read? And Herbie goes, The Origin of Species by Darwin or whatever. And she's like, we read that one yesterday. So you read this whole big, thick book to a child yesterday? And he's like, nah, I don't want that one. Grab the other one, you know? And it's like, what is happening here? And, you know, theoretically, they threw Galactus, and Silver Surfer helped them throw Galactus through this portal to where? You know, where did they throw Galactus? And will that come back to haunt them in a terrible way? And, you know, will he torture Shia LaBeouf? And then maybe, you know, he needs a new Herald, so he gets a Norrin Rad. So maybe that's how we get the other Silver Surfer. I don't know. You know, maybe does Shia LaBeouf come back and help the Fantastic Four fight Galactus in again? Or does Doom team up with Galactus, and then it's like Doom and Galactus versus the Avengers? I don't know, but Galactus is definitely not dead, and he's still out there somewhere, and, you know, maybe just on the far reaches or edges of the universe, but, like, it's not going to take him forever to get back, right? Like, he'll get back eventually, but he doesn't have his ship anymore. Which is another question. His ship is just in Earth's atmosphere, just kind of chilling up there. Like, what did he do with that? Did he go up there and dismantle it, or destroy it, or keep it? You know, like, what did he do? Like, I have so many questions about the Fantastic Four universe and where it's going to lead, and I guess the only answers we'll be able to get is in Avengers Doomsday, because that's what's coming up next. And other than that, we have Eyes of Wakanda coming out Friday, actually the day this video comes out. Eyes of Wakanda is streaming on Disney Plus, and we'll do a breakdown of those 4 episodes next week. And then Marvel Zombies is coming in October, so we're gonna have, you know, September off, and then another Marvel animation project in October, and then we'll finish out this year in December with Wonder Man, and that will be Marvel Disney Plus live action show and be the last Marvel project of the year. Now, other than Eyes of Wakanda, Marvel Zombies, and Wonder Man, I think only thing coming out on the DC side of things is Peacemaker, which comes out August 21st and will run probably 8, 9, 10 weeks, and probably take us into September, October-ish. And then I'm not sure if DC has anything else coming out this year. I doubt they have any Christmas projects or anything like that, so looks like we don't have, you know, July was the real big month for 2025, so it doesn't look like 2025, the rest of this year, has too much crazy topics or things that we'll be able to talk about, but who knows? Maybe there'll be some big drops and some big news that we don't see coming that will come out later this year, or, you know, maybe just Alien Earth or some of these other shows that are coming out this year will be insane. And then in December, we'll be talking about Avatar Fire and Ash. There's a trailer breakdown for that on the channel currently. Go check that out. As well as trailer breakdowns for Eyes of Wakanda, the teaser trailer that just got released before that show came out, and a Peacemaker Season 2 trailer reaction. So go check those all out if you haven't. Go check out my Comically Boston Weekly Nerdy News every Monday. Catch up on what happened happened over the last week in nerddom. Once again, my name's Big Cam. Thank you guys for coming on by and making it this far into the video. If you'd like to follow my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel, the best way to do that is liking this video, commenting down in the comment section below, subscribing if you haven't already, hitting that bell so you don't miss future videos and you get the notifications when they come out. Once again, my name's Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace.